Welcome to RSM Gaming. I'm Rush. This is going to be a very quick video on how to set up your VKB Gladiator for XPlane10 and XPlane11. This was requested by Megamass72 over on Twitch. I'm sorry, Megamass. It's Megamass and friends. It's taken so long to get this video to you. If I'm looking around, it's just making sure the recording's working. But I'm so sorry it's taken so long to get this recording to you. Apparently the cat would also like to be in the video. If you are looking for a review on this joystick or a cat, tune into the next video. I'm getting a new camera, a DSLR camera, so I'll be going ahead and doing a review on the stick itself. This is the VKB Gladiator version, the Mark 1. It's not the new Fancy Pants Mark 2, but I will be doing a separate review on this stick. So if you're looking for that, there'll be another video. I want it to tune in for that. But anyway, let's go ahead over the buttons with this stick, because there are some problems in it with XPlane10. Namely, the hat here. We almost cannot get the hat to work in XPlane10. I think that's where the majority of problems are coming from. In XPlane11, it's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and show you these multiple ways of getting the hat to work here in XPlane10. So I'm just going to go over the bindings and things like that. So first thing is I'm going to get out the Epic pen here and go ahead and just go over some of the features on the stick, just to point out where a lot of these problems are. So here's a picture. This is actually a Gladiator Pro, but for who cares, it's the same down on the base. The biggest thing that we need to learn about this stick and understand is these mode functions down here, just making sure you can see that, and you can. And what we have is two LED lights here, a red one and a green one, and our little mode button here. We actually need to track which one of these LEDs are lit at any one time. So it's very important we know. With my stick, I currently have the red LED lit, but you may have the green LED lit, the red or the green, your choice. Now, I am getting a little bit ahead of myself here. The setup that I have, I'm not using any other software. I'm just using the Windows 10 Joy CPL software that comes with Windows and XPlane10. That's all I'm using. I'm not using anything else. But the first thing we have to understand is these modes. They're very important in how the hat works in XPlane10. So we'll go over that now. There's really the only problem. The rest of the buttons, they're very self-explanatory. But with the lights, let's go with the lights. So currently my red light is lit. My red LED is on. That means that every button that I press on the stick now is under the red mode, if that makes sense. Every button I press is under the red mode. Now, if I go ahead and press the button and switch over to green there, even though I'm pressing the same physical button on the stick, what XPlane10 reads is actually a completely separate button. So even though, let's say, this big red button on the side here might be button 1, well, when I'm on green, okay, let's say green, this is button 1. However, if I go over to red mode, this is now button 2. So think of the modes here as doubling the number of buttons you actually have on the stick. So with that in mind, let's talk about the hat. Because here we are in XPlane10, and I'm spamming the hell out of this little hat function here. In fact, if I go into... I'll get Joy CPL up here. Here we go. I'll get Joy CPL up here. So this is just the standard Windows thing, right? This is the standard Windows thing. And if we look there, I'm spamming the absolute hell out of the hat, and you can see it over here that the hat is indeed working in Windows. It's just XPlane10 for some reason is not picking up the button, and that's okay. The other thing, there's one other button we need to understand with the red and the green, and that is actually our little pinky button. Now, our little pinky button, the way this, and our little pinky button is right up front here. Our little pinky button is actually a modifier button. So in fact, when we said that we had the two LEDs, we actually have, think of those as a modifier doubling the buttons. We actually have a third modifier, which is our little pinky button here, and it kind of works like almost a shift key or a caps lock key. So if I hold the shift key down on my keyboard, I can get the number 4, or I can get, that is indeed a $sign. I can get shift, I can get a $sign, or I can get the number 4. That is what our little pinky thing here is actually doing, is it's a shift modifier to our buttons. We need to understand that to get XPlane10 to work correctly with the hat. And XPlane11 will deal with it's really, really simple, but XPlane10 for some reason doesn't like this stick. So that little button there we have to care about. So there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with our joystick. We can see we push buttons and things happen. I can push all of these other buttons and things light up on the screen, as you can see. We've got another throttle there. We got, you know, things happen when we push buttons, right? But you'll notice when I press the pinky button, I'm spamming the hell out of the pinky button right now. No lights come up. It's not actually a physical button. Like I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm spamming the hell out of it. Nothing actually comes up here. Windows is not detecting a button. It's actually an internal shift modifier in the actual stick. So, we know LEDs, they change the modes, which double our effective buttons. We also have a little shift modifier, which also doubles that again. I don't know, math is hard. Now, let's use that to actually make some bindings in XPlane, because that's really what we're trying to do here, and we've already spent 6 minutes talking crap. So, let's, apparently I can't just exit out using Windows. Let's go into the buttons. So, XPlane10, archaic as it feels now, we'll go here into our settings, and we'll go joystick and equipment. Here is our menu system here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just resize myself a little bit, so you can see, there we go, you can see everything. Now, I'm assuming you've calibrated your hardware, but what the hell, let's just do it anyway. We'll calibrate the joystick hardware. We'll go ahead and move all of our buttons through their full range. So all I'm doing is just going through all of the axes that the stick actually has. So we'll just calibrate here. We'll just run through all of the axes, so up, down, left, right. And all this is doing is XPlane is getting everything in a center point. So XPlane then knows the full range, the X and Y axes that the coordinates that the stick can go through. And then after we've done that, we should have a nice and controlled stick. And then we need to assign some things. So let's just go ahead and assign things. So I'll just wobble this. I can see that's going to be roll. So go ahead and put roll in there. We can see it goes green. How lovely. And this is obviously going to be pitch, and we've even got a rudder here. So if we don't have pedals, we could just use rudder here. For some reason, they call that yaw. But it's, yeah, they call, I don't know, whatever. Roll, pitch, yaw, and we have another slider here. We can use that for throttle if we would like. I typically find myself using it for everything other than throttle because I am running a separate throttle here. So we've got everything green. Now let's deal with the buttons. XPlane10 button system it's powerful, but it's very difficult to actually get through. So if I go over to the buttons basic panel here, it's confusing. There's no way around it. It's confusing the way that we bind buttons. There's a lot of information here and it's hard to understand. The point that we have to take note of is this number in here. That number in there is actually telling you an XPlane assigned number that it's given to a button press. So, for example, if I pull the trigger on the stick, it should come up with a button, but it doesn't. Well, it does. So I can see when I pull the trigger, the button up top, that 334, has nothing to do with Windows. It's just saying XPlane has assigned this trigger as button number 334. Now, if I go ahead and press another button, how about a great big red eject button? We'll see that button number will change to 333. Maybe the top button will go ahead and we'll see it's 338. XPlane assigns these, they're not random. XPlane10 assigns button numbers to each of the button presses, whatever they may be. This is where it gets in tricky, because if I hold the modifier, let's say I press the trigger, it's 334, our eject button is 333. Now what happens if I hold the pinky? I actually can't remember, so let's find out. It's a different number! Holy crap! Anyone would think I planned this out. I actually didn't. So our little pinky button here, which as we described earlier is a shift modifier, is that when I regularly pull the trigger without my pinky, we'll keep our have our tea drinking hand here. Tea drinking hand equals button 334, and if I press our eject button, we can see it's 333. We'll go back to drinking tea hand, and we'll pull the trigger. It's 334. Now if I go ahead and we'll close our tea drinking hand up, pull the trigger again, and we have a completely separate number, 334. So what that means is it's kind of like the $ on your 4 key, is that I can pull the trigger and it's one button, and then I can go ahead and hold shift, and now it's another button, which can be quite helpful. It can actually be quite helpful. Like for me, I fly a lot on Pilot Edge. I can go ahead and press this top button here as my push to talk, but let's say I also have TeamSpeak on, I'm talking with friends, or I have Skype on, and I have a push-to-talk button there, and I don't want to talk to them all the time. Maybe they're not very good friends, but I can now go ahead and hold the pinky button and completely change my top button. So my top button here is regularly button 338. It might be different on yours. These buttons might be different on yours. XPlane assigns these numbers with how many controllers you have attached and all that other crap. But I can go ahead and hold the pinky button and change that button to 339 or 338. So I could actually have two push-to-talk buttons on the one stick with just our little pinky modifier. It gets a little bit more complex, because then if I go ahead, this has all been on red LED, okay? If I go ahead, I'm sorry that you're going to be like, whoa, my head's swimming. Pulling the trigger here is 334. Holding the pinky button, our tea drinking finger button, and pulling the trigger, it's 335. But what happens if I change my LED here to green? Let's go ahead and find out. So we've got 334, 335. Let's go down to green. Let's try it again. We'll pull the trigger. 336. And we'll go ahead and pull our little pinky button and shoot it again. Again, we might be drinking coffee instead of tea. 337. So for one button on this stick, there's one little trigger button and this little button here, and through modes, I have four different buttons, actual buttons that I can assign to things. Maybe I could, if I'll say flying DCS, green mode could be shoot, red mode could be guns armed. And so then I could set a button for, say, guns, like pull the trigger guns, pinky modifier pull the trigger, releases a rocket, under green or red, whatever you may be. You're getting the understanding here is there's, even though we have, we actually have a lot of buttons on this stick. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 buttons, multiply that by 4. That's how many buttons we actually have that XPlane can assign commands to. Now, I personally don't go into binding all of these buttons. There's far too much to learn, and you'd need a cheat sheet beside you reading what each button is and modes, and do I have the green light, the red light, and am I shift modifying it? Too complex for me. I like things simple, so I pretty much just have the red LED because it's the least invasive color, and maybe I have some shift modifiers. That's all I personally do. In DCS, maybe I will go into guns on, guns off kind of like modes, but whatever it is. So we've had several numbers through here. I still haven't answered how we deal with the hat. Well, the hat has its own buttons, but when I press it, so I'm pressing the button again now, XPlane is not assigning a button number to it. It's not pressing a button. I'm rolling my finger around the hat there. But I'm on red mode here. I'm going to go ahead and close my little tea drinking finger here, and now so I'm holding my shift modifier, and now I'm going to press a button up. All of a sudden, we're now starting to see button presses. Let me go ahead and get this Joy CPL up for you again. .cpl. There it is there. VKB Gladiator. There it is there. So we can still see this little number there. So we can see Windows is picking up a point of view hat track. I go ahead and hold my little pinky modifier, and you'll see that Windows now is picking up the hat as individual buttons. Individual buttons there. So I'm holding my little tea drinking finger, pressing up, that's button 22. In XPlane, that's 342. I'll go ahead and pull the button down, and there's 343. Go across, there's 344, 345. So there's 4 buttons there. If I then go ahead and change my mode, we'll see our maximum number there was 345. We'll go down to green, pinky button, and we'll see all of these numbers increase up to 349. So we can assign buttons for our hat in XPlane10. It's just for us to assign these buttons, we have to understand that there's different modes and different individual... XPlane thinks with this little shift modifier that there is actually an extra physical button on the controller, but it's actually just tricked by what the controller is outputting to XPlane. So let's go ahead and assign some things to it then just briefly. Personally, I like having my hat for trim, right? So I'm sitting here in the Cessna 172RG, one of the Alabeo products, and for this aircraft I have elevator trim, and I also have rudder trim. So I would like to set some buttons for those. So I need to know that I'm on red, and this is why I don't shift from red to green, because if you go and try and trim the aircraft, you're taking off and you're trying to trim, and you're on green mode and you didn't know, you're like, I'm out of trim, and the aircraft pitches up, stalls, falls out of the sky. So I only like having one button for each mode. It's just... I assume I'm going to be stupid and try and kill myself somehow in the simulator, so I make things very simple on my controls. So let's go ahead and assign some buttons. So I would like trim up to be pulling back on the hat, right? I want to pull back on the hat. So go ahead and close my little tea drinking finger here, pull back, and I always spam it a few times to make sure this number up here that I just covered, this button here, this number there, doesn't actually change. Because with the hat, well, there's so many buttons really, really close, maybe I'm actually pushing to the right instead of down. So I'll go ahead and hold my little pinky button, pull down, it's 343. Now I need to assign it. So after, right now, it's doing nothing at all, right? We can see it's selected to do nothing at all. I want to change that, I want it to be trim. Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll search through all of this. There we go, there's rudder trim element. Here we go, pitch trim. Here it is there. So I'm going to go pitch trim up. Perfect. And then I want to assign the push up on the hat. Push up on the hat is coming up as do nothing at all. I'm going to go ahead and go pitch trim down. After I've done that, there's no save button, which is a little confusing. There's nothing here to say save. I'm just going to go ahead and cross on out, and I'm just going to see that it works. I'll look down here. Here's my little trim indicator. Close my little tea drinking finger, and there we go. I've got pitch trim up. I can see it's moving towards nose down, and then I've got, if I pull the hat down, it's going nose up. The trim wheel's moving in the right direction. Let's go ahead and assign rudder trim. I can see I've got a rudder trim here. Let's assign a button for that. So I'm going to go back up to settings, joystick and equipment, and I want to go to the left. So close my little tea drinking finger there. To the left, 344, and I would like to go to rudder trim to the left. We'll do that for the same to the right. We can see that it's 345 is up here. It's doing nothing at all. I would like that to be rudder trim to the right. Just cross out, and now I should see when I press that button, close my little pinky finger, and I'm now trimming the aircraft left and right. This is all under mode red. Mode red. You can, of course, if you wanted to add other things, like hat views or something like that, well, you could have mode green and then set it to move around the cockpit. Personally, I like using the mouse to move around. It's more accurate. I don't have track IR or anything like that for XPlane. And with a simulator like this, I find myself, I'm not needing to move the camera around too much. If I'm flying in IMC, like it looks like here right now in Seattle, well, I only am going to be flying off these 6 instruments here. I don't really care what's going on around here because I'm in cloud. And if I did want to look out the window, well, I just move it over. I just right-click here, and it looks like I've actually got a bit of... making everyone wait here for me, apparently. Nice C-130 and 172 over there. They're waiting for me to get out of the way. How inconsiderate. So yeah, I prefer just using the mouse where I just right-click and move around. And the way I have it set up is my mouse is always right beside my my joystick, so I'm a good pilot. I trim the aircraft out in flying. Here I am, I'm trimming, I'm trimming, I'm trimming. Theoretically, I should be able to take my hands off the stick and the aircraft will fly in a straight line because I have pitch trim and rudder trim. And I go ahead and grab my mouse and move things around and say, oh, okay, yeah, I'd like to drop the flaps down here a little or bring the flaps back up. I can do whatever I need to do. What else? I'll just show you one other thing here, and that will be just switching the modes. Well, I think it's fairly. I think I've covered the red and the green thing here. So we can see I'm on red mode when I push the button. Just keep an eye on down here, and you'll see when I push the button, I'm going between pitch trim up and pitch trim down. But if I go ahead and change my mode to green light on, I'm pressing the exact same button. Nothing is happening, and we can see our button numbers have changed and we're back up to do nothing at all. So what else could I use for this hat? Well, you could set some views here, right? You could set some views. I don't know. I don't know. I've never found another use for the hat unless I'm flying an aircraft in, say, DCS. I would rather the hat just do trim, and that's it. I'd rather the hat just do trim. It's just going to save you a lot of headaches when you're flying out, and there's things that you don't want to mess up, and I try and do my best when flying online, or even just simming at home. So, pinky, hat, that will get you some buttons in XPlane10. And you can just go absolutely bananas and assign everything else here. For example, if we were on Pilot Edge, I like having my top button on my stick to be Contact ATC. There it is there. This is where like I was saying before, I might use the shift modifier. And that could be something like, well, contact ATC, and then maybe, well, a shift modifier for that. I don't know. What else would I use? What is something I would use here? Contact ATC. I wouldn't use it for any reset buttons, just in case. Maybe fire guns. I don't know. Maybe we fly fire guns, or hold the brakes, something like that. Nose wheel steering. I honestly actually don't know what I would use it for. The point is, as you can see, I don't really think of maximizing the number of buttons I have here. I just think in simplicity and keep things simple for me when I'm flying and simming online. XPlane10. Let's move on to XPlane11. Here's one I prepared earlier. XPlane11 is a hell of a lot better because it has this section here, this buttons section for the actual hat. So it actually picks up the hat movement. You can see there it's flashing away, showing that it's picking up all of the hat movement. So in XPlane10, I didn't say this before, sorry, in XPlane10, if I just press the hat without my little tea drinking finger there, it does zero. Absolutely nothing. XPlane does not pick it up whatsoever. Nothing. You spam it all day long, it's not going to pick anything up. It's only until you put your little pinky there on that little button, then it will actually pick up that you're pressing a button. XPlane11 is different. It will pick up everything. So I'm pressing the hat here, so you can see it's lighting up all of the buttons here. In fact, I only have 4 buttons, I think, on this hat. I don't have an angled button. And then, with XPlane11, if I go ahead and hold my pinky button and then push the hat, I now am getting button assignments. So I hold my pinky down, I get button assignments. So this would make more sense to me is if I really wanted to have a view, really wanted to have a hat that dealt with my view, like panning left and right, up and down, things like that. In XPlane11, it works easy because it's already assigned. I don't need to do anything with these buttons. And then all I need to do is press my little pinky button. I'm on red LED, press up, and you can see that's what I've actually got. I've got pitch trim up, pitch trim down assigned. I actually have nothing assigned for going to the left and right. I don't use that trim. I have a little axis for that. But XPlane11 deals with this controller better than what XPlane10 does. That's just about it. I don't think I really need to run through the XPlane11 assignment process. It's a hell of a lot simpler. I will just quickly, okay, disregard. I will just quickly show you how to assign rudder trim here. So I'm not doing anything with these side buttons. Let's say I wanted to. You can see button 23. I just press it a few times, make sure it's the right one. It lights up. Edit it, and then what's really simple here is I can just search for something. So I can just search for rudder. Put that in, rudder trim to the left or right. I want it to be rudder trim to the left, and then I just go ahead and press apply. But I'm not going to do that because I'm going to forget about it, and I'll wonder why I'm trimming things when I'm not meant to. XPlane11, hell of a lot easier to deal with the VKB Gladiator. It deals with it a lot better than XPlane10, but you can still use just about all of the functionality of the stick other than the hat. Everything else works fine in XPlane10. Anyway, that was a very long-winded way of telling you how to set up a controller, so hope that helps anyway. For those of you guys, again, if you are waiting to see a review on the stick, it will be coming, getting a big fancy pants DSLR in the next few days, and it'll give us some nice shots, glamour shots of the stick, if you will, and I'll talk about the pros and cons of the stick and what it's all about. Spoiler alert, I absolutely love the stick, and it's sensational value at $99. Sometimes it goes on sale for $84. Absolutely fantastic stick. Hope that helps, MegaMouse72 and friends. Hopefully that will save all of your frustrations, and you can go ahead and sim to your heart's content. I'll catch you guys in stream. Thanks again, and don't do anything I wouldn't do, and see you soon.